Hello, and thank you for joining us. A federal immigration officer has shot and killed a woman in Minneapolis. According to two federal sources, the victim has been identified as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, a U.S. citizen. And we want to warn you, this next video may be disturbing to some viewers. Descriptions of exactly what happened vary. You can see one of the vantage points on your screen here. Witnesses tell CBS Minnesota that federal agents were blocking that Honda Pilot, sort of a maroon color. The Minneapolis police chief says she was blocking the roadway. One agent tried opening the driver's side door, which was locked. You're going to see that moment right here. The driver then puts the car in reverse, then forward, and that's when shots were fired. At least 3 shots audibly in the video, killing the driver. That car then moves forward and hits some other cars on the side of the road. A Homeland Security Department spokesperson says the woman was deliberately trying to ram into the officers. Secretary Kristi Noem characterized her actions as an act of domestic terrorism. The shooting comes as the Trump administration launches its largest deployment yet of federal agents to the Twin Cities. Around 2,000 agents were sent there as part of an immigration crackdown and investigation into alleged fraud. Earlier during an event in Texas, Secretary Noem spoke about the shooting.
An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased.
Local officials are disputing those claims. Secretary Noem is expected to speak shortly from Minneapolis about the incident. We will monitor that and bring you updates when it happens. Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim Walz offered condolences to the victim's family and says he doesn't want or need the federal government's presence in his state.
We have been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear.
CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga begins our coverage from Minneapolis.
ICE agents were in the neighborhood for an enforcement operation, and residents were honking horns and blowing whistles.
There was a red SUV parked right in front of our house.
Aiden and Grace Perzana say they saw the entire scene from their home and that several officers surrounded the SUV.
A third person in also camouflage fatigues came and started pulling on the driver's side door handle, at which point the vehicle backed up a few feet and started driving forward. The agent who was on the driver's side originally, who was not pulling on the handle but had been there prior to that, shot 2 or 3 times through the driver's side window. The car drove a 30-40 feet and crashed into another car in the telephone pole.
It was an act of domestic terrorism.
Speaking in Texas, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said agents were acting in self-defense after their vehicle was stuck in the snow.
They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle.
The shooting quickly sparked protests and outrage. Just this week, the Trump administration launched its biggest crackdown on illegal immigration, sending about 2,000 agents into the Twin Cities. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry.
What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust.
He demanded ICE leave the city and urged residents to remain calm. Nicole Sganga, CBS News, Minneapolis.
CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman joins us now. Obviously, Katrina, social media blew up after this, and there are really heightened emotions on either side. We need to wait for a lot of the facts here, but we did learn the identity of the woman who was shot. And what else are you learning?
That's correct. So we've learned her name, that she's a U.S. citizen, as you mentioned. The Minnesota Star Tribune had the opportunity to speak with her mother, who said that she lived in the Twin Cities with her partner. Another relative said she has a 4 or 5-year-old child. But something that her mother said is that she would not have been part of challenging the ICE presence in Minneapolis. When she heard about the circumstances of how she died, she said that that was stupid, quote, and she described her as a kind and compassionate person who was always taking care of others. She said she was just an amazing human being.
Do we know any more context about what she said was stupid, about what was being said about the circumstances?
There wasn't more context to it, but it sounded like she thought the circumstances of these events.
Okay, wasn't necessarily believing what she was hearing from federal officials, potentially, given what she knows about her daughter. How are investigators going to approach this case?
So they will want to reconstruct the scene, Lindsay, to speak with everyone who was on the ground there. We're already seeing videos emerging, different perspectives of what happened. So ultimately, they want to figure out what exactly transpired here, what led up to this interaction, how did it unfold? The real threshold question, Lindsay, is there are circumstances under which ICE officers are authorized to use deadly force. Was there an imminent threat of death or serious physical harm to the ICE officers, to someone else? So that is the real threshold question here. Was that shooting necessary to prevent death or serious bodily harm? As you said, there's these two very different narratives. Was she trying to run over the ICE officer? Or as others say, was she just trying to drive away?
Okay, Katrina Kaufman, thank you.
Thank you.
CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us. Ed, what more is the White House saying?
No specific reaction just yet to the governor and the mayor of Minneapolis's calls for the federal government to leave the city and the state. But the president himself, like many who've been near screens today, weighing in on what he saw in one of the angles of the video, saying in part that to his eye, quote, the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. He added later that this is happening because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. So nothing else, so far at least, from the president, but the fact that the Homeland Security Secretary has rushed from Texas to Minnesota as quickly as she did, after being there on Monday, in part to speak with our own Nicole Sganga, is a sign that at least her department is taking this pretty seriously and that she felt compelled to be there to reiterate what the administration has always said, that the ICE agents deserve to be able to carry out their work and that the general public should respect their work and follow the instructions of law enforcement if and when they're given.
I want to play some of what Governor Walz said earlier today.
I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back. Let me be clear. Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident. But we love this state.
Now, that was 2.5 hours ago, mind you, so we don't know if he did get a call back. But typically, what kind of communication would a governor and the administration typically have following an event like this? Whenever
there are instances of violence or a natural disaster or something that has a federal component to it, in this case, it was a federal officer killing someone and then causing a disturbance, someone at a White House, in the White House, would conceivably call to check in with the mayor or the governor or both and just sort of say, what do you need, or what do you think, what can we do to make sure this situation remains peaceful? We have no indication that that's happened at this point between the governor or the mayor and the White House or the Department of Homeland Security. Noem has been criticized by members of both parties, in Congress at least, for failing to follow up on congressional inquiries regarding ongoing immigration operations and immigration enforcement actions and other aspects of her department's sprawling work. Remember, there was that incident when federal agents were deployed in Los Angeles, where the California Senator Alex Padilla showed up because he happened to be in the same building meeting with other officials regarding that deployment. And after days of trying to get in touch with the secretary, realized she was just down the hall. He went to see her, and then he got beat up for interrupting her during a news conference. So, the track record of outreach, proactive outreach after something happens, is not good. And this appears to be another example of that.
Ed O'Keefe, thank you.